Hello my dear friends, how is it going? I hope I find you all in good health and safe and sound. I'm Ari Thuriger and today here I am for the last video of 2023, at least the last Wednesday video of this year. I'm here to mainly keep you company at these last few days of the year. It's not like I come here totally unprepared, mind you. I have a few ideas in mind, but let's see how it goes, as this is just a little talk, nothing too fancy, nothing too serious. When we realize that most things in life aren't that serious, it is liberating. As that famous Roman philosopher or whatever once said, live life like it's the last days of Rome, by Bigus Dicus, probably. Well then, after 7 years of being a YouTuber and over 460 videos, this is the first time I have a drink by my side, to celebrate with you, of course, in your honor and to your health. Don't worry. It's just fermented potato. You know, it's funny. This drink is actually very similar to 95% of all the love relationships I have ever had, if you can call it that love. It gives you an illusionary sense of warmth and slowly pushes you into an early grave. Cheers. Good gods, that's smooth. Well, let's start our today's video. If you please. In the previous video I have touched on the issue of specific moments and days of the year that are believed to have more magical potential in traditional folk magic. Talking, for example, about the act of circumambulation, generally on days like Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. During the year, we have several spiritual seasonal observations, and for this reason New Year's Eve is also a day considered sacred, special, charged with magical potency by most practitioners of the magical arts, in which they observe the day as a threshold between one year and the next one that follows. Of course, in various cultures and over time, many dates were understood as being the threshold of something, a passage of a cycle. And for this reason, the moments that were once considered the moment of passage to a new year were different from the moments we observe and celebrate today. We are faced with the phenomenon of giving meaning to moments of the year in which, in nature, but also in human social behavior, changes are observed and we give meaning to these changes. And as things change, and thoughts and beliefs too, we give new meaning to what is observed, especially how human communities interact in moments that are understood as being on the threshold and become reason to celebrate. Be that as it may, the human being observes the natural world and its changes and celebrates these changes, just as any phenomenon that is out of the ordinary and is observed is also a reason for celebration, creating a distinct cognitive landscape where the human being is inserted. Human beings are not limited to surviving only, thank the gods, but beyond their most primordial instincts, they also celebrate the changing of things. These celebrations are not forgotten. These feelings pass down through generations, becoming more concrete and perhaps more outlined within an agrarian animist framework onwards, creating a strong set of traditions. Many popular traditions still survive and had their origins in humans' consciousness to ensure something beneficial for the next cycle. Moments of celebration that serve to create, maintain, reinforce and remake beneficial relationships. And the perception of the end of the year is imbued with the same feelings to create the necessary conditions, even if they are just emotional, for a good year to come. A concern to ensure that your wishes for blessings and good luck are heard by the spirits and that they can provide spiritual assistance. Popular practices also play an important role as they are remnants of ancient pagan rites for different sectors of life. These feelings persist, although many of the meanings and origins are lost in time, but the feelings are somewhat maintained. New Year's Eve is a sacred moment as it involves a transition from one cycle to another. It doesn't matter whether or not the traditional dates and customs of other times disappear, because what is implicit here is a moment that is understood to be the threshold. In witchcraft, the threshold between the two moments is presided over by various entities, be they kings and queens of witches, gods and goddesses, spirits, ancestors, and other entities that are found on the thresholds, betwixt and between. And here, in these moments, they are found and honored. We just need to give it a significant meaning, and everything can become magical in our lives. Therefore, New Year's Eve is marked by a spiritual transition, marked by the end of an old year to the entry of a new year. We make our lives magical if we live them magically. That is, every act of living is reason enough to celebrate and create a reason for personal change. For example, we all have to clean our house. It's a common, boring act, but it's necessary. However, we can transform this into something more motivating and meaningful. For example, in these last moments of the year, many people clean the house to enter the new year in a lighter, more peaceful way, leaving everything tidy to enter the next year and starting in a welcoming environment. It is a symbolic act. However, taking into account traditional folklore, we often observe the act of cleaning the house as something beyond the more natural reasons of hygiene and personal well-being, but also the idea of the presence of spirits and other entities that live in our home. And cleaning our space of existence is also a service that we provide to the entities that inhabit this space and from whom we need their beneficial powers to continue to have a good experience of life within the domestic space, which, after all, it is our private social space where much of our magical work is done. We see a lot in folklore that a variety of spirits, including ancestors, begin to cause a series of less beneficial activities to the point of even being harmful and dangerous for human beings when the domestic space and its harmony are neglected. One of the main traditional rites is cleaning old belongings that will no longer be taken for the next year. And here very much speaking about old objects that still maintain a connection to the old cycle. A good cleaning inside a house can mark this transition of giving a new space for the new cycle, a new space for the new version of ourselves that will carry on the work in the new cycle. Here we are talking about rituals from the past that we can read about in folklore, and some of these have survived and are still carried out today in some places or by older people, such as using water from a sacred place and smoke the environment accompanied by ritual gestures and the charms spoken or sung to guarantee a blessing. And blessing, protection and consecration of the place to guarantee protection against the evil eye, for instance, and against malevolent witchcraft and negative influences from certain spirits and human beings as well. At New Year's Eve, we are facing the threshold, the leap into a new year, the closing of a cycle and the opening of new paths. When we enter new paths, there is an opening where a lot of things can enter and a lot of things we don't want can also follow us. A symbolic act can become an annual ritual that ends up having an important meaning for whoever does it and is continued, carried on, because the repetition of the acts maintains the feelings and wishes for which that act or those acts were originally created. Many people today still have the habit of wearing a certain type of clothing and even specific colors of it, either a single piece or an entire outfit, to the New Year's party, that is, and entering the new year with a certain type of attire. It's interesting because in the past we find similar expressions, generally the use of course, protective amulets carried in the pocket as a magical practice to enter the new cycle. Amulets, talismans, charms, they can be anything really. Even a piece of clothing that is specifically used for only these occasions. I think many of us have heard, surely, people say that they are going to wear a piece of clothing or an object on New Year's Eve for good luck for the next year, to bring good luck to the next year, right? And this intention remains, the projection of this hope and desire. But over time, the objects change and the rituals and even the songs and prayers that were performed are lost. But we can have a meaningful object to take with us in these occasions. It's the meaning we put into things, the emotional, sentimental, and energetic charge we put into things that makes them significant to us. And therefore, it creates a magical potential. We keep having these yearly rituals, and the repetition helps to establish the intention that we want. This is the core of almost every yearly ritual, and the idea that it takes a number of years of repeating the procedure in order to work. Repetition of ritual increases power. I think many of us still have in our cultures that habit or the custom of the first foot in the new year, that no one should leave the house until the foot crosses the threshold that will bring good luck to the residents of the house. Starting the year with the first foot, as the right foot is called, is an old tradition that we still have today. The first people who enter our house on the turn of the year, of course, will bring good or bad luck, depending on whether it is with the right foot, lucky, or the left, bad luck. But we ourselves have to start the year standing on the right foot. The old belief on the left side being sinister, literally from Latin, sinistra, to the left or left side. Here spoken before on an old video, actually my very first on occultism. It is curious to note that nowadays our celebration of transition from one year to another, at this moment marked by the crossing in just one night, is full of ancient customs, behavioral expressions and patterns that many people don't even know or have the perception of the reason for these habits, but they continue to do them. I, at least, find it interesting to detect the origins of these attitudes. One of the traditions at this time of the year is also that one that on the first day of the new year, nothing should leave the house or anything should be borrowed, as it is believed that you are giving your luck to others. So it is important to keep your belongings close or inside, at home, to ensure safety and protection of good luck for the residents. And this actually reminds me of a material issue that we see in many beliefs and religions. And I just want to leave a brief comment here. I know that certain religions also have the spiritual purpose of abandoning everything material, including one's own existence, and even cutting off human relationships to achieve an absolute spiritual state of knowledge and enlightenment. Personally, I don't agree with this for a variety of reasons. I understand, mind you, I understand the purpose, and to a certain extent it is useful, especially getting rid of consumerism and a whole set of materialistic vices. But everything has its limits, and there must be a balance. I don't believe that life has to be a separation from life itself, but rather the set of efforts to create relationships with others is an important part of life, and that makes us grow on several levels. Individualism has its limits, of course. No one evolves alone, nor does anyone reach great knowledge without having the experience of others. But speaking of materials, not only as an archaeologist, but also with a more animistic spiritual path, the total abandonment of the material is not healthy. So much so that, in archaeological terms, all of human history up to this point where we are at this precise moment right now is marked by a vast and rich material culture. And it is this material culture that precisely allows us to understand part of human thought through time, as the human itself disappears, of course, but much of its essence endures through time, through material culture. Furthermore, from an animist point of view, objects have a very important role in creating relationships between people, persons, whether human or not, but also in preserving knowledge, desire, emotions, spirituality, and even in the continuation of relationships beyond life itself. Exchanging objects that contain a feeling and a strong energy helps to create and maintain relationships, and also helps to preserve memory that helps us to continue life and want to create more memory and pass on that memory. Objects are loaded with energy, with intention, and we also understand this ancient custom that at the time of cyclical change it is important to preserve some objects so as not to pass on or contaminate this magical potential, or on the other hand, of course, pass it on, very much so, to whom we want to maintain, build, or strengthen a relationship with. Frankly, it makes more sense, at least to me, to exchange gifts at moments of cyclical change, to maintain or build relationships, even with non-human persons, especially ancestors or the dead, those with whom we had a previous relationship before their transformation. And so gift exchange with those persons helps to maintain and reawaken the relationship that once was before a cyclical break. But more on that on my previous videos on animism. Nowadays, we have a lot of use of fireworks, which I tell you is something I don't like, as beautiful as it may seem. For me, it has more negative aspects than anything else, but let's not go into that. In any case, this recalls Sabbath rituals, and long before that, of course, pagan rituals where fire plays an important role of illumination, power and protection, especially in moments of celebration, cyclical breaks or cyclical transitions, in which it was customary to light a fire, say a prayer, sing or express a spell or prayer to ward off evil influences from the house or the community. Since the transition from one year to the next was a moment of opening the veils of the other world, the threshold moment in which forces interact between the worlds, trusted people are allowed near the fire so that it does not sabotage and attract bad luck and malevolent spirits at this time of the year, which is why many ancient traditions of this kind only included family members or the community or even the religious group. A celebration to maintain the beneficial aspects that the community needs to survive and live, without the presence of external elements that are not yet familiar or considered in a benign way to the point of inviting them to precisely to prevent bad influences or angry the spirits and bad influence on the very thing that is being celebrated, recreated and maintained. Hence, many celebrations, even some celebrations of animist communities even today, there is restriction on individuals who do not yet have a beneficial and familiar relationship with the community. At the same time, these fires and celebrations open doors. They are an invitation from the community, from the human community, to spirits and other entities that are beneficial to the community, including them in the celebration, once again to maintain and reinforce these relationships that are important to the community and the well-being of the persons involved. In a way, the celebration of this kind at the turn of the year, the transition of the cycle, is to extend the celebration to the spirits that we want to celebrate with us, so that they continue to be part of our lives in the following year and continue to maintain the blessings and all the beneficial aspects they bring to us and to life. This is also reminiscent, at least here in the most rural areas of Europe, and also, of course, throughout the Christianized world, of the ringing of church bells during the New Year's Eve, but also the tradition of banging pots and pans and lids during the New Year, making a lot of noise, announcing the arrival of the New Year. This custom has its origins, of course, in pagan celebrations of an animistic nature, in which the use of instruments and even vocal sounds serves to scare away evil spirits in moments of celebration, and especially cycle transitions to scare away less beneficial or even harmful forces, powers and entities, so that they do not follow us and do not enter the new cycle. At the same time, some instruments were typical for culling specific entities that were wanted to be around during these celebrations, precisely to include the entities that we want to continue to give us something beneficial and drive away those that we don't want around. For this reason, it is also not uncommon to find orgy sexual acts in many ancient beliefs in cycle transition celebrations, as the orgy sexual act is a reenactment of the myths of creation and procreation, forcing the powers of fertility and sexuality to be concentrated in the act of the orgy, an act also with a symbolic and religious charge to maintain fertility within the community, and so that this fertility power and strength extends to the next cycle. Therefore, in this time of cyclical transition, New Year's Eve is not only a time for social interaction with family and friends to celebrate the entry of a new cycle, but it is also important to remember that it is a spiritual interaction with the forces that surround us, to ensure that all the beneficial aspects they give to us are maintained. And for this, it is important not to forget the entities other than human and more than human persons, and invite them, celebrate with them, interact with the spirits and with the forces of creation to create, recreate, maintain and reinforce relationships. The human condition and all its evolution and life experience and also purpose is at the basis, at the core of relationships, in interaction with persons of all types. And now this is where I leave you. My dear friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time, your friendship and support. Thank you for your love. I wish you all a wonderful new year. We shall see each other soon. Many blessings to you, and I wish upon you strength of mind and spirit. Until we meet again, my dear friends. Thank you for today. Is to extend the celebration. Don't worry, Mom, it's just grape juice. Really? The hair. Fucking hell.